Name of this title of this video is C.S. Lewis. For a long time, I had been let's say, a supporter of the C.S. Lewis writings. Some books, I guess, were out there like something about complete Christianity or something like that. And then there was another, of course, the books that most people are most familiar with, Tales of Narnia, and no, C.S. Lewis was, a graduate of either Cape Marie or Oxford University in England. Very prestigious university, still today, very tough academically, scholastically, what have you, whatever. Was given a fellowship at the university, I think in the area of religious studies or something like that. But for my money, C.S. Lewis is an idiot, a stooge. And let me explain why. All he did was take nomenclature of his day having to do with demons and warlocks and who knows whatever, certain caricatures and whatnot, and then somehow reweave all that stuff into a Christian story. Okay, fine. It's not a big accomplishment. And then he was even on the air back in his day when he was alive, where he was giving advice to other people about the virtues of being married. But there was one little thing that got left out of the equation. He wasn't married himself. Yeah, he did get married in the later part of his life to a woman that had some illness, and I guess she ended up dying, and so on. But from a human standpoint, C.S. Lewis didn't really have much of the ball. It was in no position to be giving opinions or advice to others on the virtues of marriage, and whatever he did in that regard, he did basically off the top of his head, which might as well be the same thing as talking out his ass. And anything else he did literature-wise is on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe a 3. A lot of people put him in the class with Goethe, who wrote Mephistopheles, wrote Faust, which Mephistopheles was a caricature in, and put him in the class with very notable high-end writers of the past and probably the present day. Put him in the class with Faulkner and Hemingway and all this other stuff. And who were these people that were making these great class distinctions? They were fundamentalists and groups that have low education or don't have very high education and are not very deep thinkers. They're not true intellectuals. And even though C.S. Lewis supposedly had a classical education, he didn't necessarily speak from the avenue of a person who had classical education. He wasn't I'm trying to think of this guy's name. I can't remember right now. But anyway, he's just basically a fraud as far as literature goes. But for those of you who are young and want to read some, Christian literature that's for inspiration and whatnot, then yes, C.S. Lewis is still good, but not necessarily high quality. His stuff is no greater than perhaps the writings of Hannah Hurnard, Mountain of Spices and Hind's Feet on High Places. A good read, and somewhat entertaining, but not highly academic or scholastic. Except, of course, Hannah Hurnard's are probably more academic than otherwise. There are some good academic writers out there in the area of religion. One that comes to mind that I've read quite a bit of is St. John of the Cross. That was Watchman Nee. and perhaps some of the different writings by Kenneth Hagin, some by Kenyon. You can read probably the stories of Hudson Taylor, first United States mission or American mission to China. He was in the last century, 1800s. Anyway, that's. Oh, I know what I was going to do is compare him to use Henry Blake as an example. Blake was a classic, had studied the classics, but also had spiritual experience in a whole different realm than C.S. Lewis. I mean, C.S. Lewis doesn't even hold rank with Ralph Waldo Emerson. It was again another graduate of the classical education format in England, Europe, or whatever. And by the way, Ralph Waldo Emerson was a personal friend of Charles Wesley. Wesley had some things in the ball too, though a lot of his writings seemed to ramble on and say a lot of nothing. If you had to whittle what he knew down to very precise terms, I'm sure you couldn't fill up Word in about 2 pages. Ralph Waldo Emerson, on the other hand, could fill up volumes. Thoreau and a few of these other guys out there. It's too bad that C.S. Lewis doesn't cut the grade, doesn't make it. There's probably maybe a few steps above Bugs Bunny or Donald Duck.